that is
No,
decreasing.
no, I understand that, but wouldn't it make more sense to go to the Tom Nevers Association and go to the Cisco Association, and each one of them to patrol their own?
How are they going to control it? What there is now is $100 fine in the bylaws. People that feel entitled to light up their property 24/7, 365 days a year, and can afford that, they don't necessarily care about a $100 fine.
I don't think, I've had the same thing. I've knocked on people's doors and asked them to shut their lights off,
Right.
and they're usually quite responsive. They don't even realize.
But some of these
on.
people don't live here, and the lights they're on, and no one's there.
But to have one person who's going to cover Nantucket yelling about people's lights, I just don't think. I think it's a noble cause, but you're never going to be able to enforce it.
What do you mean, one? I don't
know how you're going to enforce it. I mean, you're going to have somebody going around looking for lights that are.
Actually, I spoke with Libby Gibson after the meeting was over last time, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I've never done this before. And she said it's complaint-based. But I'm hearing from people that they can't really count on a complaint being enforced. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm not looking for, I know we're not supposed to be trying to budget for the town. I'm not looking for like a huge budget or a new person. It's just someone that can, and I'm sure there's meters. I'm sure it's, but it has to be done at night.
Are we sure, Nan, that these people are all in violation of the town's current bylaw?
From what I read in the bylaws, yes.
Well, what does the bylaw say? You're
That's
not allowed to have
light trespass. They refer to it as light trespass, and that these bylaws have been supposedly enforced for 15 years because someone felt strong enough about it
at some point
to say.
Joe, there is a definition here.
Because it's not on the article.
The light level at the property line shall be no greater than 1/2 of a foot candle measured at the height of 5 feet above grade. So presumably there is a device that can measure
the light
intensity
of your house
candles.
lights or whatever.
Yeah.
And up lights, I don't think are allowed in a lot of places.
Yeah, that's one. That's in subsection 3, letter B, and then it goes to H, and then there's also other subsections. So there's lots of detail here about what is and what isn't allowed.
And presumably there are exceptions for the school building and firehouse and police station.
But they can have shields. They don't have to light up. That's the point of.
My guess, Joe, is that yes, there's an exception. If the fire station thought it was in their interest to light up the building, they could probably do that with or without an enforcement agent.
No,
Joanna, were you going to ask something?
Who is the enforcement agency?
Libby knows the answer.
Yeah.
It's in plus, and it's not necessarily one specific person. For a while there, it was a zoning enforcement officer, and when he is available to go out at night, he is sent out at night. I don't really think that town meeting is going to be able to establish the schedule as outlined in there with the pay differential and a special nighttime thing. That is all subject to collective bargaining anyway. But it is fairly regular, if there's a lighting complaint, that an arrangement will be made within the plus admin staff to have somebody either get paid overtime to go out at night or work their schedule so that they can just figure it out during the week. Part of the problem may be, and I'm hearing exactly what Nan is saying, we've been seeing somewhat of an increase in lighting complaints just in general, and not even just limited to somebody's house lights, street lights sometimes. I get a neighborhood who says, oh, we need some more street lights on our road, and then some other people in the neighborhood say, no, we don't. It's going to be too light now. So then we have to figure out, is it a safety thing or is it a night sky matter? In any event, it is complaint based. I don't really think we're going to send somebody out on a patrol monthly to look at what lights might or might not be in violation. And I think, to Peter's point, it is a little bit of a neighborhood policing kind of a thing right at the moment. But there are people that are sent out to investigate if there's a complaint.
Can I ask you a question too? Does the airport commission ever weigh in on this? Because I think they're the ones that are most sensitive to us. Actually, it's in their best interest for us to keep the island as dark as
I
possible.
don't think I've heard much from them. There have been some complaints about some of the school lighting with the intermediate school, and specifically that parking lot. That is fairly newish lighting. The school feels quite strongly that they need that lighting, but maybe there can be more discussion with them about shields and something a little less bright. But I haven't really heard too much from the airport. I know.
I've been talking to Andrew Morris and Dora, and they seem to think that they get to light up the sky, even though the people 15 years ago said, please don't take away our.
Yeah, and they are overlit, but they also are a taller building than the other buildings around them. So I think it sticks out a lot because of that, and because it seems to be as soon as the sun goes down. So it's a little different because of the height. So that means the lights are sitting higher on the building, and that alone is maybe that's something that could be addressed.
Shields and they refuse to put them down. I don't know what, you know, I don't know what.
I'm very sympathetic to what you're saying. I am. I think it's something the town actually should talk about and think about more. Just with regard to your article, I think you kind of hit right at it that we need another inspection at night, and also that's just not quite the way I think I would have handled it. But I just want to encourage you to maybe have even a sense of the town to see where the town would come down on that. It's a conflict because I've fallen down and almost lost all my teeth here as well. But at the same time,
That's not good.
It's a problem. I have clients that we do landscaping for, and they want all this uplighting, and I beg them not to do it. I really do. But unless there's just more sense of people to come together, maybe that would be a good group for you to talk to in the landscape community as well, and what concerns their clients have, and how we could get people more information to learn about this, because I do think it's very interesting, and it is something that makes the island special. I agree with you.
You know, it exists.
What exists?
Light through, and keep it from going up and going to dark spots.
Yeah, well, I think you're bringing in an interesting new conversation to the island. I appreciate that. Thank you.
What Andrew Morris said, he said it's a symbolic article to stimulate the discussion.
There you go. I agree with what Andrew said 100%. Thank you.
I would just add to that I don't know what these devices cost, but if somebody could procure the kind of device that would be used to measure foot candles of light from at 5 feet above grade, and then we can determine to what degree this is a problem.
I want to point something else out.
Could you please do it at the microphone? I'm sorry, Nana, I've kind of let you slide in the last one, but I need you to leap up for me, please.
When I spoke
Thank
to Lauren, and I spoke to Marcus first, she told me she and Marcus had been having discussions about putting more teeth in the lighting bylaws.
Who's
Uh,
Laura?
Lauren Sinatra. Do I have her name right?
The energy person.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't know
Okay.
you were talking about that.
And
Laura, 'cause I don't know what that-
I didn't, now we do know they're putting in overhead, National Grid's putting in overhead lines. And Lauren told me they have shields, and they will provide them at no extra charge to the town if they're putting lights over, along the lines. And that should almost be automatic, that the town decide, while this is happening, being installed, that
Right, but to
get
get
the
at what your
shields,
article
at least do
says,
that, right?
You know, to talk about whether or not it makes sense to put somebody on night patrol, for me, I'd want to know what the degree of the problem is. So we would need that device, like the police department has sound meters that they can use when they get a noise complaint. Presumably, somebody can measure what a foot candle, okay.
Well, don't you,
Chris has got some here, they range in price from $110 to $210. Somebody ought to buy one
Chris is on Amazon.
and
Buy him one.
and go to these problem areas and say there's, 20 of them in Surfside, and there's 50 of them downtown, and then we know what kind of problem we're talking about. Because if it is a localized problem that could be dealt with a knock on the door or a phone call or through the neighborhood associations, then maybe we can not have the additional expense and management of somebody on night patrol.
Well, but we already have a complaint-based response.
We do, and what I'm not clear about is how many complaints there are that are made, how many people just don't know that there is a problem and they would complain if they knew. But I don't think you know how many complaints that there are and how many are
No,
don't
I
go
just-
responded to.
I just know the feedback I got from speaking about it,
Yeah.
that there is a lot of strength to the anger against the light pollution. People are not like
Right,
wishy-washy.
but anecdotes
They're
don't make
angry.
data, so we don't know if this is a widespread problem to the point that we need to
Well,
adjust
so-
somebody's work schedule.
Is there a complaint file?
That would be a good question that you could ask any department. You could go back to Andrew and you could ask him that. Or you could ask the police department.
I very much encourage you to talk to the airport to see what their problems are, like if they have them. That is the best place for you to start, because that is who's going to have the biggest concerns.
Because you're saying that they have bright lights.
Those lights conflict, no, their lights conflict with the lights around it, so when you're landing a plane in the dark, they don't know where everything is. The lighter we get, the dimmer they get.
So the airport does not want a lot of
I would
additional
guess
light.
they wouldn't. I'm not on the airport commission, but I want to encourage you to
But there's
talk to them.
someone to talk to. Okay.
Mariah Mitchell might be another interesting group to talk about, to see if they have any science around night sky stuff, because it seems like I don't want to do a long thing.
I would think they have had an opinion on night
We're
skies.
conflating some
I
issues
I
here. I
missed who
think
you-
light transport and night sky illumination are probably two different things, but I would think they may have a view on the science.
Absolutely.
I missed who you were talking about.
Mariah
Laura
Mitchell,
Oh, Mariah, yes, I've spoken.
they probably
I've
have
gone
the
to
greatest interest in.
I've gone to them. They've found problems near the observatory with town lights, and they finally got them to do something. So I have made
That one
different
was just in
contacts.
the way, I think. But
Yeah,
Did you
But
know that
I-
holiday lights must be taken down 2 weeks after a holiday?
I did not
Is
know.
that in there?
Check the calendar, folks.
Okay.
I hope everyone's enjoying my Martin
Okay.
Luther King lights.
Yeah, mine are, yes, exactly.
I'd
Okay.
make it sooner than that if I could.
So, just as an observation, Nan, what might have been, rather than jump to what is a potential solution to a problem that we haven't been able to document with concrete facts, another opportunity or option would have been a sense of the meeting discussion saying, does Nantucket want to pursue a dark sky designation as a location, right? So then you get the bigger picture discussion happening, and then go from there and say, well, in order to do that, what would the town have to do? Because you here are kind of jumping all the way through. Do you see what I'm saying? I can
Yes,
stop
you're
talking.
saying,
I love that.
get the town
like
to
my
see the
stuff.
value of being designated a dark sky designation, and then it's a blanket.
And then with that,
It's
then
a
you talk about
blanket concern
strategies for
instead of
achieving it.
neighborhood.
And then you know that the voters of the town are interested in it, because to reassign funding from people who have jobs to do something that maybe, whilst you have it's when you talk to folks about something you're passionate about, it's quite easy to jump in and be passionate with you. If you had talked to another 50, maybe the other 50 would have said, not so much. So, you see what I'm saying? So therefore, having the preponderance of voters voting for, we would like to see Nantucket be this, then it makes more sense for the town administration to say, okay, if that is the case, then how do we proceed from there?
So this is a separate article to be sponsored.
I'm just
At another
I'm just
time.
saying an alternative way to look at it. So we will obviously rule on your article as it is, and potentially there's another way to
But it-
approach it in the future.
In the future.
And I was looking, most of the designated locations are state parks, et cetera, they're not towns. So, it's a little different when you're at Cherry Hill State Park than when you're in Nantucket, where you have schools and police departments and airports, things like that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anything else you'd like to share with us, Nan, before we
No, that's,
move on? Thank you for coming back and talking
Okay,
to us about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so, this is the first public hearing on the entire warrant. So I'm going to painfully go through them all. Everyone's excited, I can see, jumping up and down. We can't do anything on 1 through 30 until we have numbers for them, correct, Brian? Correct.
Yeah, actually, we're drafting motion
Okay.
for the standard.
Okay, perfect. The only one I think we can actually look at is number 7, personnel compensation plans for fiscal year 2021. Can we go ahead and do that one now? Is that one?
We have the public hearing and go through them all one by one to ask if anyone wants to speak on them.
I have not, I will do that. Anyone want to speak on Article 1? But there's no numbers in it, so. No, in the receipt of reports, I mean,
No, Article 7 is on.
Article 7, yeah. No, I don't mean, can we vote on it now? Can we deliberate it now? I'm sorry, is what I meant. I'm sorry. I said vote, I meant deliberate.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
misunderstood you there.
Yeah, I know. No, I meant, are we allowed to deliberate it now? Because there are numbers in it.
Yes, you should go through each article.
Go through each one by one. Okay, but, okay. I'm wondering why I'm going through things that have no numbers in them. Article 1 has no numbers. Anyone want to talk about it? No.
No, we're still in the public hearing.
Okay, so Article 1's not going to have any numbers because it's simply the acceptance of the fiscal year 2019 town report.
Okay.
So the motion will just say something like, move to accept the fiscal year 19 town report.
Okay,
And that is, the town report that you pick up at town meeting typically.
yeah. The yellow one that you handed out it was yellow last year.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a different color this year.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to, in my brain, get what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Yellow one I have on my bookshelf. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, but you do realize I just didn't do this last year. I just got to ride along. So did we deliberate and vote on it prior to that motion being made? Or no, we waited until that motion was made by somebody other than us?
Typically, right now at this hearing, you're gonna go through every article, see if any people from the public wish to speak on it. You could ask any questions that you want, and then I don't think you typically take action right then and there. Then you're gonna close the public hearing, and then you can go back and talk about any of the articles that you want to, and you might
Okay.
close some out. Like that would be a very simple one to close out, and
Okay.
quite honestly, I've already started with Brian a little bit, drafting motions for these annual routine articles
Okay,
that you don't usually have any issues with.
okay,
And that's a good amount of these beginning ones.
yes,
So
okay. I get it now. Thank you.
sure.
Perfect.
I'll stay here in case you have any questions.
Yes, please stay there. Anyone like to comment on Article 1?
No, I think we should receive the motion to adopt. Receive the reports.
Okay. Article 2, appropriation unpaid bills. Any comment?
Do we want to vote on these as we go through them?
No, we
No,
just can't.
no,
We
we
just
can't.
told we can't.
Well,
We're still in
Until
a
we
public
close the
hearing, right?
public, until we
yeah.
close the public comment.
It's not that you can't, it's just been your practice to take any public input or comment about each article, and then at the end you close the hearing, and then you go back. But you can do it however you want. I didn't mean to tell you how to do it.
I like all these process discussions.
I know, I'm sorry.
You take
over. Maybe it would be okay if I just gave you a very quick
Yes,
10 to 30
please.
second explanation on some of
Of
these.
each one, yes.
So,
Article 2, please.
Article 2 is just unpaid bills from prior fiscal years. They are not allowed to be paid by law without approval by town meeting. We are right now telling the departments, get your unpaid bills in here, and there's unfortunately often a straggler who doesn't get their unpaid bill until the day before town meeting, so sometimes there's a technical amendment, but we try to get them all into your motion, and typically the funding source is free cash.
Or the department budgets, or retained earnings if it's in our earnings.
Okay, thank you. Article 3, appropriation prior year articles.
Sometimes we have appropriations for this, if there's an article that can be closed out, because the purpose for which it was appropriated is either over, and there was money left over, or we're not doing it anymore, and then it can go to something else. And we may have one or two of those things, but I don't think they're gonna be called out here, they're gonna be called out in Article 10. So this is something of a placeholder article, just in case we have something unlike that we need to reappropriate from a prior year that doesn't fit into Article 10. So this may be a take no action, ultimately.
Thank you.
Article
four, please.
revolving account spending limits for fiscal 2021. This is an annual article. Revolving accounts are required to have an annual, basically a not to exceed limit for each fiscal year. And we will have a chart for you shortly.
Article 5, appropriation reserve fund.
This is an annual appropriation from the Finance Committee for the reserve fund that you basically have control over, and typically that's $500,000. That's what we've projected for fiscal 2021.
Is there gonna be a time when we have more discussion about those, just like current balances and thinking and stuff?
Reserve fund, any unused balance closes to free cash at the end of the year, so it doesn't carry over.
Oh, it's an annual appropriation.
It's an annual appropriation of 500,000, it doesn't carry over, it closes at the end of the fiscal year, and it goes to free cash.
Got it, thank you.
And I don't think we've used it yet in 20, have we?
We have not touched it in 20 yet, but we probably will.
Yeah, we may have something that we're gonna come to you with.
Okay. Article 6, fiscal year 2020, general fund budget transfers.
Budget transfers between expenses and salaries are not allowed to occur without a vote of town meeting, and there's typically a few of those that need to happen at the annual town meeting, and then after annual town meeting, as the year gets closer to the end, there's always some shuffling around that finance, with vote of finance committee and select board is allowed to have happen up to a certain amount, right, Brian? Or is-
Actually, the governor removed that, but it's through a certain period, it can only happen through July 15th, through the closing of the final warrant for June 30th.
So there's usually gonna be some budget transfers, like say, I'm just thinking of one, sometimes police has had money and salaries that wasn't expended because people left or they weren't able to hire, so they have an expense that needs to be paid for, or some other department has an expense that needs to be paid for, so this might be in a budget transfer. And whatever doesn't get captured at the annual town meeting will get captured at a meeting prior to the end of the year, end of year transfers.
Thank you. Article 7, personnel compensation plans for fiscal year 2021.
This is, as you can see, there's 3 schedules here, the miscellaneous compensation schedule, and that is just for sort of fill-ins or per diem positions, call firefighters, things of that nature. There's a few additions this year for positions that have been needed but haven't actually been put into the schedule. There's a new one in there, certified paramedic. And then Schedule B is the seasonal schedule for, you can see what's listed there, lifeguards, info aides, dock workers, seasonal rec coordinators, things like that. Those have all been given a proposed 50 cents per hour increase. And the compensation schedule for the elected officials is, you can see what they are right there. And the only one in recent history that has been increased on an annual basis is the town clerk, because that is obviously a full-time employee. And that salary, I believe, is a 2% increase along with the other non-union staff.
Thank you. Article 8, appropriation fiscal year 2021 general fund operating budget.
So you have heard about Article 8 already when we had the Saturday session, and there's probably going to be some more discussion about other general fund items, perhaps, maybe health insurance, or I don't know, other line items in Article 8. But you're going to be getting Article 8 in a big motion soon, right?
Article 9, appropriation, health and human services. We know we'll be hearing from Dorothy not on the 11th, on the 13th. Is that correct?
13th, that's right.
So that's coming.
Yep.
Article 10, you heard about last week, right?
Yes,
At the board meeting, and you have the report.
Whatever. 27th, yeah.
So this will get, that report, the recommended items from that report will get put into a motion for your continued review, and you will determine if those projects are what you want to vote on.
Okay. Article 11, appropriation, Newtown Road transportation improvements.
So 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all going to be, they are already on the ballot as debt exclusions, and they are also in the Capcom's report as recommended items. So I think you know about them. If you need any further information, I can hopefully give it to you, but I think you've heard about all of these.
Okay. Any Comments or questions? No? Okay. Article 15, appropriation fiscal year 2021 enterprise funds operations.
I think you've heard from all the enterprise funds except for Island Home,
Correct.
and those will all get put into a motion for your eventual adoption.
Brian, remind me, I'm sorry, when are we here? Tomorrow. Our Island Home's tomorrow.
And Ali put all of the schedule in the updated meeting calendar.
Did we get the budget?
It's in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in with the county budget. She sent it a second time with an update.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Article 16, appropriation enterprise funds, capital expenditures.
That is also in the Capcom's report, so same thing there, except enterprise, not general fund.
Okay.
Sorry,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, 17 is budget transfers, same as general fund, except for the enterprise funds, same concepts.
Okay. Article 18, appropriation waterways improvement fund.
This is an annual article that is required to be appropriated annually. And we'll give you a number with a motion, and those funds will be used for all of the items listed in the actual article. I don't think it's anything unusual about it this year, is there?
Article 19, appropriation ambulance reserve fund.
Ambulance reserve is an annual appropriation, and it funds up to 6 full-time firefighters and/or paramedics, and a number of other ambulance items. And we'll be getting you a number very shortly.
Okay. Article 20, appropriation ferry embarkation fee.
Ferry embarkation fee, same kind of situation. It's an annual appropriation. We have been using the ferry embarkation fee proceeds for the Community Service Officer Program, formerly known as Summer Specials, with the police department, and the amount, it's about, 190? Oh.
Depending between 200 and 250.
Okay. And that amount does not entirely cover that program, so the remainder of it comes out of the police department budget, and this is the proceeds that come from the 50-cent passenger charge on the ferry tickets.
Thank you. Article 21, appropriation county assessments.
You will hear more about this tomorrow, if
Yep.
you're doing the county budget tomorrow.
Article 22, this is what was at select board last week, correct?
Yes, as county commissioners. 22 is a placeholder article. The charter basically says that, the county charter says that if the county commissioners and the FinCom acting as the county review board disagree on the budget, that town meeting has basically final say.
Has FinCom, the county commissioners, ever
No.
disagreed? Okay. As I started
Not
this
that I
year.
recall.
That was the first time.
We're already having enough fun, Joe. Article 23, rescind unused borrowing authority.
This is also a placeholder in the event that there's something that we authorize to be borrowed, which has to go on the books, that we either don't need anymore or that turned out to be completed for less amount of money. I don't know if we have anything, do we?
We might have a couple, but it depends on where the school's at with the school and working with Weston and Sampson to see if we can rescind any of the unused capacity from the partnership.
Article 24, appropriation other post-employment benefits trust fund.
This has been an annual appropriation of $250? Oh, sorry. Ooh. $500,000, which goes towards our, OPEB liability trust fund.
Okay.
And
How's all that going?
it's going great.
How's what? The liability or the
Yeah.
funding of the trust?
Are we narrowing the, no?
When you put 500 in and you've got about 80 million, it's gonna take a long time.
I mean, seriously, are we getting any better at all? Are we treading water? Is it still getting worse?
We're treading water. The good thing though is the fact that the select board did make a policy decision that to the extent possible when the pension unfunded liability is fully funded, that substantial amount of money will be then directed into OPEB to begin to try to fill it faster. So, but we are doing more than most communities are doing, so even at 500,000.
I believe there is one town in Massachusetts, maybe two, that have fully funded, Wellesley being
Wellesley
the
did it, that
most.
was a very, an override to fundraise.
This is different.
Article 25, appropriation fiscal year 2021 senior work-off program.
This came from the assessor's office, and that's where the, I guess the funds from the senior work-off program sort of come from. I think the amount that was requested is 25,000. And it supports the program, how?
The funds come from overlay surplus, you declare a surplus for this amount, and then we put it into the article, okay? And it supports people who meet the criteria for the senior work-off program to provide services to the town. They actually get a check that then is turned over to the town and is applied against the tax bill.
Okay. So the work-off is they're working off their taxes.
They're working to get a check that ultimately is then paid and applied directly against the tax bill.
Okay. Article 26, appropriation for special purpose stabilization fund for airport employee accrued liabilities.
26 and 27 are very similar, 26 being for the airport, 27 being for most of the rest of the town except for the school and enterprise funds. And this is a fund for long-time employees who are going to be retiring, and they often have a lot of accrued paid leave, such as vacation or sick time. And rather than delay hiring in order to sort of pay that off, this establishes, these funds have already been established. The airport, I don't think put any money in yet, or did they put money in last year?
400,000.
Okay, and they, I think we're asking for a little more for this year, but I don't recall the amount exactly, and we budgeted
We
250?
recommended 500,000 to the select board during our budget presentation to come from free cash to begin from.
The town one.
Yeah.
So we don't do an automatic accrual, somebody doesn't take 4 weeks vacation, we don't accrue that dollars on a normal basis?
It would require them at the year end to accrue over $1.6 million on books.
Wow.
From the expenditures, which would basically, we don't, most towns, they do it as pay as you go. This is just an opportunity for us, because we've had the amount of free cash that we've had, to start to set it aside so that get it funded, so that it becomes more predictable and easier to fund than trying to fund it through the operating budget if you have a lot of retirement.
Okay. Article 28, amend purpose of special stabilization fund for substance abuse prevention efforts.
Hopefully that is sort of self-explanatory. We are just adding the words and/or mental health to give a little more flexibility with that fund.
Article 29, appropriation Harbor Place professional services.
This is something that's come out of some meetings we've recently had with the Harbor Place owners and the board's desire to get involved in the conceptual plans for that area. And I believe our request is going to be 500,000. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. What was, oh, okay, I'm getting those two confused. 150 for this, 500 for Island Home.
Okay, thank you.
And the professional services would be for the engagement of various engineers or consultants to help develop some more definitive conceptual plans as to what town infrastructure needs might be in that area as a result of the development, and also perhaps some assistance with developing the development agreement.
Article 30, Nantucket Islands Land Bank financing.
Brian, this came forward from the land bank as an ask to the town. You might have to explain this a little.
Can we talk about this one?
So basically, this article would ask the town to back any of a $25 million bond authorization for the land bank with our full faith and credit. Otherwise, they'd have to issue revenue bonds, which would become inherently more expensive for them to issue. We have done this in the past. There's also a covenant agreement that was created and attached to the prior borrowings that they've done with backing with our full faith and credit, and this would seek to authorize another $25 million, which would give them the flexibility if a piece of land came up to be able to, that fit into their goals and their plans to be able to purchase it. With the understanding that we would be requiring and begin working on, if this were to pass, another covenant agreement to cover that subsequent, any issuance of debt under that $25 million. It would also allow them to refinance any portion of the current outstanding amount of about $17 million if there was an opportunity to refinance it. Most of that debt is now callable, so it could potentially be refinanced, and this would be the vehicle that they'd be able to do it under.
So Brian, what's the difference in rate between a revenue bond if they were borrowing without the town's guarantee and the town's rate?
About 2.5% to 3%, plus substantially more cost to go through for issuing revenue. Revenue bonds are substantially more expensive to issue than general obligation debt.
So if they didn't have it, would that actually slow down their ability to buy land?
I don't want to speak for them, but it potentially could make it more difficult to have to deal with.
And if they did, does this do anything to the town's rating or the town's leverage?
We've had discussions with Moody's, until it's put in front of Moody's, borrowing from the land bank. I don't know that Moody's is going to opinion on what it would do, how heavily they would weight it for the town, but Cinder and everyone at Hilltop does not believe it would have a material effect on our ability to function and does not believe it have a material impact on how Moody's currently views the town.
Okay, thank you.
But again, until it actually happens, I can't, but I don't believe it will.
This is commonly done in other jurisdictions that have.
Well, nobody has a land bank law.
Well, I don't know any other, I'm not familiar with other jurisdictions in the Commonwealth that have the land bank that would do this, but
There are a few, right?
we have done this in the past, so this is not, it's not something we've never done before for the land bank. We have done it in the past.
So why are you asking for approval now, so they can do it in perpetuity?
This is just, no, because you remember the motion would be for an authorization specific of only $25 million. So they could not borrow more than $25 million.
Yeah, but that's really what they bring in every year, isn't it? That's like,
No, they bring about 20 million in, roughly thereabouts.
so they have 20 million in cash every
Well, I
year.
don't have 20 million specifically on the books in cash every year because they have to fund operations and everything, so.
Yeah, I don't like this one personally. Do you think the land bank's gonna come and talk to us about it, or?
Well, do we want the land bank to come talk to us?
I don't
about
know.
it, I guess is the
I'm
question.
asking. This is just, it was a red flag for me. I feel like they have a lot of money and I don't see why, I just don't see why they need this personally. I don't.
Okay, I mean, they asked us to do it and we put it on the warrant and we've done all the, from a finance department perspective, we've done all the due diligence necessary to ensure that the town won't be impacted and will make.
Okay, but one way you might be impacted is that you're endorsing what they buy when you do that, in my view. I think you are, and I don't know that the town should really want that on them. It's
Okay.
more protection for the town and how they're perceived. They should be perceived separate from the land bank, in my view. Not tied together. That doesn't mean that you can't come out and support what they're doing.
What is the negative of being associated with the land bank?
I don't think everybody always endorses what they're doing or what their mission is. Those things change over time. That's okay.
There's nothing in the town that everybody always agrees with. I mean, there's always gonna be differentiations.
I know, but now you're gonna back them up financially, and I don't think they need the backing. I just don't.
The land bank to me is the most peanut butter and jelly thing we've got, so I don't see the controversy.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and jelly, good or bad?
That's good.
I
Okay.
feel like everybody
Bad.
needs
There's
accountability.
so
I'm
many
just,
allergies these days.
That's true, that's true. I apologize, I'll pick up tuna fish.
That's okay, I just never heard the metaphor before, so.
Donuts.
That's good.
Donuts are good.
I'm sure the land bank would be happy to come in if you want to talk to
Yeah.
them.
I think we could talk to them.
Yep,
Yeah.
can
I
have
just
them
want to
come in.
know. So that's it.
Occasionally, we hear about land bank transfers or property swaps with the town that don't come to fruition for one reason or another. Are we in a good place with them?
I would
I
say
mean,
yes.
this is something that we want to do.
This particular article, I would say, is a policy matter. And
Yeah,
like
that-
Brian said,
that's why
from,
I'm looking in the audience. We
yeah.
have some policy makers.
Oh, policymaker.
Sometimes we do have competing interests in the land bank, but generally we help each other and we are in support of this.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dawn. Okay, any other comments? We'll invite the land bank to come in and speak to us about it. Any other comments? No? Okay. Libby, back over to you.
I think the next town-sponsored article is 70.
Okay,
And I think between here and there, it's mostly citizens and/or planning board.
yes. I would, so are we jumping to 70, or do we still need to go through? 31 we've already voted on.
I would just go through each one, just in case somebody from the public wanted to speak to it. It doesn't really look like there's anybody that,
There's one person in the back, but I don't know who she is. Okay, Article 31, we've already voted on this. And Article 32, the Community Preservation Committee, fiscal year 2020 budget transfers, and the fiscal year 2021 budget. Any other comments? Okay. Article 33, appropriation, Health and Human Services Fair Winds. Fair Winds will be, we already voted on this one as well. Motion not to adopt because Fair Winds is actually going to be pulling the article at town meeting. Article 34, we've already voted on, appropriation, Health and Human Services.
On 33, did we have a comment for that?
We will have a comment for it, we don't have one written yet.
Okay.
So, I mean, at this,
Just would like to have it printed that they asked us to take it out.
correct,
So if they change their mind
correct.
later.
Yeah, no, we need to, I would offer that anything where we write motion not to adopt, we should have a comment for.
Okay.
I mean, it just seems sensible, but we can discuss that later. Article 34, appropriation, Health and Human Services Airport Ambulance Transport Fund. We've voted on this, but are there any other comments?
What was our vote?
Our vote was motion not to adopt.
I'll just make the comment that this morning at the Contract Review Committee meeting, we voted to invite Mr. Wieners to make an application to the CRC for some funding that may be available through that allocation.
Right.
Article 35, appropriation, incineration of solid waste. Okay, any comments on that one? No. Okay.
We voted on that one already? I know there's a draft of a comment that
Yes.
Joe and I worked on,
Yes, I think we motion not to adopt.
and there's a draft comment for the board to
Yes,
review
there
and
is.
appropriate, okay.
Yep. And then Article 36, appropriation, legal opinion for beach access.
We voted on that.
We did vote on that one too. Somehow my notes don't have it in here, but we voted motion not to adopt on that one as well. Okay. Article 37, appropriation, hazardous waste. Any?
I think we voted that one too.
We did. Why is my thing so out of date? Also voted motion not to adopt. Article 38, reestablish Parks and Recreation Departments. We also voted that one. Also, motion not to adopt. Article 39, zoning map change, RC2 to RC5, Appleton Road, and that was FinCom supports planning board motion. I had to go look up how we write that last time. Article 40, zoning map change, RC2 to R5, Bartlett Road and Boynton Lane. Also, FinCom supports planning board motion. The same is true for 41 and 42. So 41, zoning map change, RC2 to RC5, Myacomet Avenue and Surfside Road. Article 42, zoning map change, RC2 to CN, Bartlett Road, 30 Acres Lane, Boynton Lane, and Surfside Road. And Article 43, we voted on that as well. Same, FinCom supports the planning board motion. Zoning map change, RC2 to CTEC, Appleton Road, Bartlett Road, and Perry Lane. Article 44, zoning map change, RC2 to R5 and or CN, 33 Old South Road and 24 Tacoma Way. The planning board will be discussing that on February 10th, so we passed on that one. Any comments from the audience? Nope. Article, I just every now and then feel the need to ask. Article 45, zoning map change, RC to CN, Francis, Union, and Washington Streets, and Salt Marsh Way. We voted on that. Wait for it, it's exciting. FinCom supports the planning board motion. Article 46 and 47, we both voted on both of those. Zoning map change, SR1 to SOH, Bank Street, Beach Street, Broadway, Codfish Park Road, Elbow Lane, Fawcett Way, Front Street, Gully Road, Jackson Street, and North Gully Road. And 47, zoning map, we voted the same thing. So FinCom supports the planning board motion. Article 47, FinCom supports the planning board motion. Zoning map change, R20 to R40, Bayberry Lane and Rugged Road, and the planning board motion was actually take no action on that one. Okay, 48 we did not vote on that one. Zoning bylaw amendment, swimming pool residential. The planning board unanimously recommends it, but did not have a official comments yet, or ruling yet, so we postponed it.
What does that mean?
Well, in my notes, I had that the planning board unanimously recommends it, and yet they were still discussing it. I think they're still holding a public hearing on it.
I think they had a motion to support, and I think I just asked for more time on it.
Oh, you wanted more time on it. Somehow we didn't, did they have a motion? Let me just check, because honestly, I'll tell you, the amount of, they do not,
They have not made, okay, planning has not made a motion according to, oh, FinCom hasn't, okay.
we have not.
So we're trying to
Okay.
figure out if planning board has.
Yes, move that chapter 39 be amended, taking the following actions. So yes, they did, they amend section 2A definitions as in VR, in the R1, SR1, R5, and R5L districts only. The following criteria must be met. 1, a minimum lot area of 7,500 square feet is required. And 2, side and rear yard setbacks of 10 feet shall apply to the residential swimming pool and associated mechanical equipment. This requirement shall apply to residential swimming pools for which a building permit is issued after September 30th, 2020.
Okay.
And we did not vote on it, but they did recommend it.
So there's still plenty of time to put in your pool and bother your neighbor.
Okay, so that's where,
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
49, we did vote on it, zoning bylaw amendment, sheds in the R5 and R10 districts, and FinCom supports the planning board motion. 50, zoning bylaw amendment driveways, and we did vote on it, and we said FinCom supports the planning board motion. 51, 52, 53, and 54, FinCom supports the planning board motions, and I will go through. 51 is zoning bylaw amendment demolition delay. Article 52 is zoning bylaw amendment and zoning map amendment, technical amendments. 53, zoning map change, R5 to C-Tech, Marianne Drive. Article 54, zoning map change, R10 to CN3 Cobble Court. Okay. 55, planning board is going to meet on the 10th of February, so we did not vote on this. Zoning map change, VR to VN, Pulpus Road and Chatham Road. Article 56, we did vote on zoning map change, Lug 2 to R20 Rugged Road. We support the planning board motion, and the planning board motion was take no action. 57, zoning map change, Lug 3 to Lug 1 Driscoll Way. We did vote on this. We support the planning board motion, and it is take no action. Okay. 58. We did not vote on 58 because we waited to have Val come in and speak to us. Zoning bylaw amendment, commercial mid-island height restriction, so that's still open. The planning board did have a motion of take no action. 59. Anybody have anything to say about any of these as I zoom through them? No, just checking. Okay.
I met with Andrew this morning about 58.
Okay.
And heard his and the planning department's point of view. you know, one of my concerns about losing the character of the neighborhood is that you, I think, can, and if given the opportunity, developers will try to force a fourth floor or a partial fourth floor. And I think, you know, that would create problems for the HTC in trying to, you know, combat those efforts if this is on the books. So Andrew suggested that not through this bylaw, but at a special town meeting, if there's one in the fall, or at next year's annual town meeting, the planning department would put forth a zoning bylaw that would limit in the CMI each building to 3 levels above grade. So that would certainly satisfy my concerns.
3 levels, but there's no foot restriction?
Well, that would presuppose that this bylaw, that this article doesn't pass, that the 40-foot height restriction remains in CMI, but then they would add in another location, you can only get 3 stories or parts of 3 stories.
Also, I asked Leslie on email, Denise was on it, about if there were any lots that would be non-conforming, and there really weren't any. So, you know, the Stop and Shop's not that tall. It's just the school doesn't count their municipal building, I guess. So, they said they had a couple applications in for 40 feet, but nothing had been built.
Right.
And Val's big point, or the point that Val was making, is she was worried about housing density with 4 floors of an extra floor of people, effectively. So, yeah, and parking, and so that also, what you just said makes sense in conjunction with what she's actually trying to achieve with this.
Yeah, it might address her concerns too. I don't know, but.
Okay. To make a note.
I read somewhere that Stop and Shop wanted to put apartments or housing on top of their building, and they weren't allowed to do that. And you know why, Stephen, on that? Because that wouldn't have been that high.
I know they didn't provide enough parking for the square footage of the retail area anyway, so you know, maybe that was part of the reason, but I can't imagine it was for design concerns, because other people have you know, 2 full and partial 3rd stories just across the street at Bayberry Commons. They were able to make it work 30 years ago.
Yep, I think she mentioned that in here. Hold on, I'll read it to you.
Okay, Article 59, zoning bylaw amendment, residential event facility. We voted on this. FinCom supports the planning board motion, and it was, planning board motion was take no action. Article 60, the planning board's going to meet on February 10th, so we did not rule on this one. Zoning bylaw amendment, rural affordable development. Article 61, zoning bylaw amendment, home rule petition, coastal erosion liability waiver, reason and intent. Well, don't, reason, sorry. Forget the reason and intent part. We did not rule on this one. Article 62.
I know we had a lot of discussion on this, but did the planning board have a motion on this?
I thought they were gonna talk about it again later.
Yes, they're gonna talk
At
about
another
it
meeting.
again, I believe. Though I have to tell you that my ability to take good notes and run the meeting is limited. I noticed that. So that's why I keep going back and forth going, what did I mean by that scribble right there? And why is it the way it is? So, let me see. The comments that Andrew made was it would have to end up as a home rule petition, and the issue is tying it to a building permit is actually coercive, is the comment that he was discussing with us that struck me in terms of making notes. But they did not rule on it yet. I think they're waiting to discuss it further. Article 62, bylaw amendment, preservation of historically significant buildings. We did get an email from Mary, which I forwarded to all of you. I have invited her to come back after we hear from planning what there is. And when I emailed with Leslie and Andrew to set a date, we decided it was February 18th because they still have public hearings up until February 13th. And they may not have there's no sense in having them come until they get everything done. And then we can just do it all at once on the few open items. And then Jill had a question about can or should the HDC weigh in on this? And my question is, I didn't know the answer to that, so do we invite the HDC to come in and discuss this with us? Ray Pohl, do we ask Ray to come in and discuss it? Does the HDC even review this, Libby?
No. That's right here.
I'm sorry.
I thought I saw an email somewhere along the line where Andrew said he was bringing it to them.
He is going to bring it to him, okay. Could be, I've lost track, I mean, honestly, yeah.
They're authorized to advise the building inspector with respect to demolition permit applications.
Right, but what does the HDC actually think about it, Peter? That was the question that I think Jill had. So the fact that they're being tapped to be part of this, have they discussed it in the HDC, and does the HDC have a view on whether this should happen? Or do they believe they already cover it now because they're the ones that actually authorize the demolitions?
Is this the one that has the 12-month wait?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but it's very interesting in Sconset, where the Starbucks house, where they're redoing that one. They look like they've saved the whole shell of the house, and now I'm noticing when I went to get my mail today, they've essentially taken it all down and built something else where the frame of the house was, and it's amazing how they're really kind of like tricking everybody to believe. I mean, it's gonna look nice, I'm sure, but to believe that it's the original structure, but it's not.
I think that was the example that Mary had cited in her email to us. I think so.
I was gonna say, I think there was something in the paper about it too.
Yeah. Okay, Article 63, affordable housing requirements. We have not ruled on this one yet. Article 64, public property damage. We did, why do I not have that written down? I thought we did rule on, we did rule on this. And, my gosh.
There's a comment on it too.
And we had a comment on it, correct.
Because there's the new supervisor that they're looking for.
That's in one of the earlier articles. So, and then the planning board is still going to look at this on the 10th of February, by the way. So.
Okay.
Article 65, short-term rental cap, tax cap, we ruled on this, motion not to adopt on the 6th of January, actually. Article 66, town meeting vote required to implement on-street paid parking. Chris, do you want to be a member of the public at this moment and give us an update on your emails with Sarah and John?
Sure.
Please. Because we have one member of the public, even though we had to get him to leave the table to do it. Yay.
And I have a new email from Sarah just in now, so you'll get the live report.
It's exciting. This is very exciting.
Okay, I think I understand what she's saying here. So I did ask moderator about amending it to a moratorium, and she came back and said she did not think that was within the scope of what was currently written, which is too bad, but it's her meeting. And I said, okay, I think I need to take in the direction of being non-binding then. There was a question still, she was still going to ask town council. I said, assuming town council agrees with your reading, will you accept the following? To see if the town will vote to request the select board to seek the prior approval of town meeting to implement paid on-street parking. And we got a little out of sequence because then town council said he agrees with the moderator. He said my proposed motion for a non-binding resolution is fine, but that was coming from John. And then she writes and says, I would suggest pursuing the non-binding resolution. So I think she's saying that that is okay. So my approach then will to be have an amended article that says what I just read, to see if the town will vote to request, and of course they can say no, the select board to seek the prior approval of town meeting prior to implementing paid on-street parking. I wanted to have something people could vote on that was consistent, that was enough within the scope, but not get in a situation where we left it the way it was, have it be voted down potentially just because it wasn't legally conforming, and then have there be confusion about whether people were voting for paid parking. So that will be my approach.
Could you reread your new one, please?
I can. To see if the town will vote to request the select board to seek the prior approval of town meeting prior to implementing paid on-street parking.
So shouldn't you say the approval of, rather than prior?
See if the town.
Did I say prior? Oh, you're right. Good drafting note there, thank you.
Say it again.
So I'm going to say, to see if the town will vote to request the select board to seek the approval of town meeting prior to implementing paid on-street parking. Trying to keep it as simple and plain English as I can.
As a non-binding.
That's why we've asked you to read it 4 times.
Well, I mean, it says we'll vote to request the select board, but the select board can say no. I mean, I wasn't going to add that language. If the moderator tells me to add that language, I will.
Well, but you said that the moderator said it's supposed to be a non-binding recommendation.
As
So
written,
this is
I
not
think-
This is not a vote of town meeting to require it, it's a vote of town meeting.
To request.
To request.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And I, suspect they'll probably say no, but at least we'll get a sense of town meeting's view on whether they would prefer to have this in front of town meeting or not.
Brian or Libby, do we have an estimate of how much money they were expecting to raise through the paid parking?
yeah.
This whole thing.
Yeah.
That is probably in one of the reports. I do not have that number.
No, it's interesting.
And Denise, you were copied on all that, so you have it.
I have it, yeah. I just wanted to make a note now. Thank you, Chris.
Any other questions?
Any other questions before he stops being our sole member of the public?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. Article 67, prohibiting roundabouts near school. We voted on this. Motion not to adopt. Article 68, complaint committee. We have not had Ms. Williams come in and speak to us about this. On the chance that she shows up at one of our public hearings, we are deferring voting on this until the last possible moment to give her an opportunity to speak to us.
I thought we were just gonna try like one more time to reach out to her, because there was like a cell phone issue or something.
There was, but then we were talking about, so Brian tried to reach out to her. She knows that we want to see her on this. There's,
Right, yeah, Brian, you spoke to her, and then there was like a
Spoke to her, there was
reception
a
issue. Yeah.
And she said, I'll call you right back.
Right,
And I have not heard from her, and admittedly have been
busy.
doing many other things and this, and I have not had a chance to call back. But I started by saying that you would like to have a conversation with her. And
so she
didn't
knows.
get much further after that when she said, oh, there's a connection problem.
Okay.
And she doesn't have an email, by the way, so I can't invite her via email, which is why Brian's been trying to call her. Article 69, traffic rules and regulations, limit heavy commercial vehicle deliveries in core districts. The grant has indicated, and Julia, that they're gonna come back with amended wording to this. They have not given me a date. I will chase them to find out when.
This explanation note that appears in some of the articles, did that come from the sponsor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Article 70, bylaw amendments, name change of Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
So this is back to the town-sponsored articles. This one is, now that our home rule petition has been approved to change the name, the town code references need to be changed. So this just allows for that.
That'll be a fun job.
Yeah. We'll have general code do it, hopefully.
Okay. Article 71, bylaw amendment, finances.
71 is a little bit of a change to the solar rebate program, which we want to change the name of to Municipal Aggregation Operational Adder.
Sorry.
That's easy to say. And so the idea is that the adder funds would go into more than just residential solar energy systems. It could be other energy savings systems or devices or
I have never, ever heard of operational adder before. I'm sorry, I probably should have, or is it a municipal finance technical term?
If you are in the municipal aggregation program, which hopefully everybody here is,
Yes.
what's it called again? Nantucket Power Choice. It's called saving money. It's technically called, I think, Nantucket Power Choice. The adder is just a little bit of a surcharge on the bill, which goes into a specific fund that people can apply for basically a small kind of a grant.
Okay.
Or I'm not sure if it's a grant or I don't really remember if they pay it back or not. I think. Okay. So if you need, I'm making this up totally, and I hope Lauren doesn't kill me, but like $2,000 to put a solar panel on your roof. You
Yep.
could apply for it, and if it meets all these various criteria, you could potentially get a little money to help you do that.
From the town.
And the the financial term is operational adder. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Adder,
In all
I
my
know.
years in finance.
If I may,
You may.
Ms. Chair. Just a person who sits with Lauren and goes over the aggregation plan for the town and meets with the companies that are availing bids where we buy our power. The adder is, what they want to do is make it less specific, because no one was asking for monies in the program. So changing that definition, making it much more broad, hopefully she'll be able to give away money. And it's a great program. The Commonwealth's been deregulated since 1998, and I've been buying my power since 1998 from people you want to instead of the local, so to speak, where everyone shops. And it is a great savings. I think we're at, 9.5 cents until April 30th, I believe, and then we have a rate change coming. But it's a great program, both for residential and commercial.
Thank you. Okay.
Anyone who doesn't partake, you're losing money.
Article 72, bylaw amendment, single-use plastics.
Forget if we've gone over this with you or not. Have we already gone through this?
I've
This
heard
is
it,
sort of
but I
some
don't know if I've
cleanup.
heard it somewhere other than at FinCom. So I know
It's a little bit of cleanup of the existing bylaw that was approved at a special town meeting in 2018. There were some things that weren't totally clear as we became aware of as we were moving into figuring out how to enforce this, like item B, 6-pack can and bottle flexible yokes, that's only 6 packs. It's not 4 packs, it's not 2 packs, it's not 8 or 10 or whatever. So we were running into loopholes all over the place for stuff like that. This is all of them. Just some things like that. And then Bruce obviously has his very much more comprehensive article, which he is accepting for the time being what we are putting forward.
Yes, he wrote me an email asking us to rule take no action on his because he is happy to accept the town's add-on and on the plastic work group that they suggested taking it step by step rather than going much more drastic before we had even implemented the first one. So I preempted here Article 73, bylaw amendment, single-use plastics from Mr. Mandel, and we voted to take no action on that one. Okay, 74, bylaw amendment, coastal areas and open space, protection of. We have ruled on that. We ruled motion not to adopt. I have been in emails with Deanne and Spruce. They will come either tomorrow or Thursday during the public comment with additional information and ask us to potentially reopen the motion. To do that, someone who voted in the majority would have to make a motion to say that we would redo it again. So the motion would be motion to reopen, we'd vote on that, and then depending on that vote, we would either accept our first ruling or we would discuss it again. So that's just a FYI on what's going to happen with 74.
Are they gonna email us anything, like some information? Or
No,
they're just gonna
show up and talk.
Okay.
As far as I know. If they do email anything to me, I will immediately forward it to all of you.
Thank you.
They've met with some of the bird people and the police, so they've met with a few other people, so they have more information, they said. Okay, 75, bylaw amendment bicycles, bicycle right-of-way, and 76, bicycle passing buffer zone. We've ruled on both of those, motion to adopt. 77, bylaw amendment merchandise and wares. We ruled on that, motion to adopt. 78, we just heard from Ms. Sperry tonight. Outdoor lighting, bylaw amendment, outdoor lighting. Article 79, bylaw amendment, noise, gas-powered leaf blowers. We have not ruled on that. Article 80.
Have they left, do you recall, or have they made any conversation with you, they've left that one open to revision too, or they're done on that? We're
Yeah.
done hearing from them on that one?
Oh, I honestly, Chris, do not know. If someone remembers what it was so much discussion on it, but I don't remember them saying they want to amend that one. We did ask them some questions about, could it be later adopted? Is there a potential funding, as Stephen pointed out, where you can help people if they have to move toward it, potentially, you know, buy in bulk, so then that way it costs them less. They didn't really respond in a positive way to those things.
I mean, it sounded to me like there was gonna be maybe some modification on the parking, I mean, the transportation one,
Yes.
but I don't think this one.
I don't think this one either. I have actually called and haven't gotten back, or reached out personally to a couple landscapers just to hear their thoughts on it, because I'm curious to hear it from people who do it every day, besides the folks that were here at our meeting, which was interesting. So, 80, we have
You
ruled
gonna
on.
tell us what you heard?
No, they haven't called me back yet.
Oh,
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a secret, I'm not telling you.
Is there anything that could, maybe I'm just supposing that we are gonna vote against this, is there anything that they can do to change it that would make it better, as far as we're concerned?
Actually, I think what they got wrong was the residential versus commercial. That if you as a resident, like, if you have your own, you should have it probably because you have a yard that you can do it. But it's the landscapers that have such big jobs, you know, and they have to get rid of the wood chips, and that's what we heard them talk about. And they're the ones that have,
Okay, no, I understand
you
what
know.
you're saying, but is there anything that they can do to change this that would make it palatable?
I don't think that. I think that the best way to sell the whole program would be for them to upfront the cash and run a study for 2 years and actually keep, make a relatively scientific judgment on its, on its effectiveness.
So
And
a
then they can
2-year
bring it
study on
back.
leaf blower?
Yeah, why not?
Because there's bigger things to fry.
We're not talking about our money, I'm talking about their money.
Oh, their money, yeah. Okay, that's good.
By Article 80, bylaw amendment, capital projects, we have ruled on this, motion not to adopt. Article 81, bylaw amendment, Washington Street parking lot. I had invited Mr. DeCosta to come last week, and he didn't come, and I don't know why not. And I haven't chased him again yet, because, yeah, okay. This Article 82, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Syosconset Sewer District map change, 320R Milestone Road. We're waiting for the sewer commissioners and Libby.
Yeah, I think this is just a part, I don't know if Andrew explained any of this, if he's been in, some of this came from him, but this, I think, is like an inner parcel that might be touching the sewer district, but there's no reason why it shouldn't be in, something like that.
Yeah.
But the internal group is working on it.
Yeah, yes, we had
Their
waiting for
report.
sewer commissioners on that one, thank you. Article 83, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Sewer District map change, 154R Cliff Road. We voted at the sponsor's request, take no action. We did that on the 6th of January. That one's done. Article 84, bylaw amendments, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Sewer District map change, 18 Kimball Avenue. Again, waiting for sewer. So 85, 86, 87, 88. All of those are waiting for sewer commissioners. So it's bylaw 85, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Sewer District map change, 11 Milestone Crossing. 86, same thing for 1 Westchester Street extension. 87, same thing for Hummock Pond Road and Millbrook Road. And 88, same thing for, I'm never gonna say it right, Korea Lane and Maryland Drive. Okay, so 89 is the select board. It's acceptance of Massachusetts general law, sewer user charge deferrals for eligible citizens.
So this came out of a discussion the board had some time ago about whether or not there's a way to give people with certain income levels a break on some certain types of sewer fees. And there is a general law that would allow, again, what it says here, eligible individuals who meet certain income criteria to defer sewer user charges. The income criteria, I'm told there are very few people on the island who would meet that, but it is a tool in the event that there might be somebody somewhere along the line who could take advantage of it.
Okay,
But you need to accept this general law to allow it.
thank you. On Article 90, acceptance of Massachusetts General Law, property revaluation services contracts.
This came from finance, and I think typically it's a 3-year contract, but the acceptance of the general law would allow us to have a term for 5 years, because now the property revals are every, what?
We're required to have it every 5 years.
Okay,
So this would allow the chief procurement officer to award a contract that aligns with the actual revaluation schedule versus only 3 years, which would put us going out to bid in the middle of getting ready for the that revaluation.
thank you. Not that I'll read any of these notes later. Article 91, acceptance of Massachusetts General Law, part-time building inspector.
This came from Plus, and I actually thought we'd already adopted this some time ago, but apparently we have not. This would allow a part-time building inspector who is in the business of building to have somebody else inspect that person's work, so that he can't inspect his own work anyway, but this would require somebody from another town to inspect his work. I don't expect this would happen very often, but we have a lot of trouble hiring people for this position because they almost always don't want to leave their private work to come work for the town part-time.
Okay, thank you. Article 92, home rule petition, merger of Nantucket Water Commission and Syosconset Water Commission.
All right, so 92 is an article that's been before town meeting since 2016. It has not passed through the legislature yet. I'm told that it's still in the queue, and we actually had some movement on it, I think, over the last 18 months, but it needs to be reauthorized according to our legislators.
Article 93 is real estate, home rule petition, real estate conveyance, portions of 170, 174 Orange Street, and 2 Milestone Road.
This would allow the land bank to convey those parcels to the town in the event that we would like to eventually improve the rotary, the Milestone Rotary, and we will need a little bit of land from the land bank.
Okay. Sorry. Really, I gotta get a better system. Okay, Article 94, home rule petition, town charter, select board amendment, airport capital projects.
This would be a charter change which would allow the select board to authorize airport capital projects rather than town meeting. And this is something that came forward from the airport because of timing issues with FAA grants and things, and they also were concerned that at least once, maybe twice, we had a special town meeting where there was an airport capital project where we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't vote on it. So the board agreed, okay, we'll put it in.
Okay,
Is it for any dollar amount, or it could be $1, it could be $100 million, doesn't matter?
It's for any dollar amount. It's per project that might have FAA funding attached to it, and it actually would authorize the ability for the airport to borrow money. Because typically we borrow for the AIP projects and then get reimbursed, so. But there have been times when the way town meeting, or the way we operate through the town meeting process has not lined up with discretionary funding that has been available for the airport to potentially access, so that's the reason they're looking for it.
Is this the first year we've brought this?
Yes.
And do we have a concept of, is it a 5-year process to get it done, or just nobody has any idea? Like, you know, I've said we got a big queue of these things that seem benign that have been just sitting here.
No, we don't. We would hope that this is so benign and it's in such a local issue. I think there tends to be, home rule petitions that amend charters for something like this tend to be more favorably looked upon than non-charter items, but you never know.
Article 95, home rule petition, real estate easement conveyance, Candle House Lane.
Okay, there's a drainage issue in this area, and this would allow, we need to get access, we need to have some land bank property to deal with it, so this would allow them to.
It's a new park at the end of Candle House Lane. Okay, Article 96, home rule petition, amending the town charter relative to the audit committee.
This came out of the government study committee. Is anybody on the government? Christie's on the government study committee. And I think it was just an expansion of what the audit committee does, and it expands the audit committee itself. Right now it's 3 members, this would expand it to 5. And just kind of clarify their purposes, duties, and responsibilities a little bit.
Okay, good. Sorry, I thought Christie was gonna leap up and explain something to us, so, sorry, Christie.
Was there a problem that this is addressing, or it's just sort of cleanup?
See, Christie, if you're here, we just really need to hear from you.
Christy Ferrantella, Town Government Study Committee. It was more so to expand so that it had more input. I believe there was, previously it was a Finance Committee, Select Board, I forget what the third one was, but this one was to open it up to people in the community.
Yeah, 2 members of the Nantucket community.
Just to have an external review of the audit.
Thanks, that sounds good.
Article 97, home rule petition prohibiting, I can't say glyphosate. There we go. And we ruled on this, take no action. Article 98, long-term lease authorization for solar facilities. Select
This came from the energy coordinator, and right now we have, well, I guess you're much more likely to get a vendor if they have a long-term lease, not a 5-year lease, which is the limit in the town code. So this would allow for a 20-year, or, 20-year, up to 20 years.
Okay.
If we find a suitable site.
Article 99, real estate acquisition, 24 Surfside Road.
This is a piece of property that the board has been looking at and negotiating with the property owners of for quite a while now. It is on the corner of Surfside and First Way, owned by the Kazers. And we've been negotiating with them to acquire it basically for the school campus. And this is a necessary step in order to acquire it.
Okay, thank you. Article 100, real estate conveyance, industrial land and acquisition, 57 Surfside Road.
This is a proposed exchange that involves the relocation of a sewer pump station, which is on Surfside Road, which, according to our engineers, as part of a downstream analysis of this Nantucket Harbor Shimo and Plus Sewer Extension Project, upgrades to the downstream system from that project, it required that pump station needs to be moved to a different area. It's, I don't know the correct engineering words, it's not hydraulically whatever at its current site. So it needs to be moved, and the ideal place is to move it somewhat across the street to private property. So this would be basically a land exchange with the property owner for some other property the town has on Shadbush Road, which is something that we believe we could give up in exchange for this.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the previous one, 24 Surfside? Do you mind me going back and asking
That's fine.
these guys a question?
Fine for me.
The sale of land account, what is that, and how much is in it?
The sale of land account is where all proceeds that the town receives from the sale of real estate go into. It's statutorily, and then the town meeting can appropriate the any funds out of it for any purpose that the town is legally and lawfully authorized to borrow for a period of 5 years or longer. And there's currently about $1.9 million in it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Article 101, real estate acquisition, 114 Orange Street.
This is another drainage area. This area is a drainage problem. So this property has been identified to install drainage structures on, but it is privately owned.
Article 102, and this is it's a real estate conveyance that goes with the real estate acquisition. 114 Orange Street, okay. Article 103, real estate acquisition, 64 North Liberty Street.
Same type of thing,
Drainage?
drainage. 104 is the same type of thing as well.
Okay,
And these are just authorizing.
right.
We would want to obviously try to negotiate something with any actual property owners before we would initiate any kind of a taking.
Libby, there's no map 100 on the town's website that would correspond with the 57 Surfside Road. Do you know if we're talking about acquiring the entirety of 57 Surfside or just a portion of it?
There's no map. Oh, what do you mean there's no map?
It references a map.
Uh,
I think it references a map. Yeah, all shown.
All are shown on a map, yeah, okay, so, oh, but it's not online?
It's not in, I mean, it's a draft group of maps that's on the town's website, but
Okay.
there's nothing that corresponds with that.
I see, all right, so I need to get on top of getting that together. I think it is the entire, it is a portion of that parcel. But I will work on getting appropriate map up.
Okay. Article, so you'll follow
I'll
up?
follow up on that.
Thanks,
yeah.
Libby. Article 105, real estate acquisition, East Hallowell Lane, and 106, the conveyance of such lane. Oh, sorry, these are private citizen ones. We have not ruled on these, we're waiting for real estate. We will be waiting on real estate for all the real estate ones that are coming, which go from Article 107 to Article 113. And we haven't voted on any of those until we hear from the Real Estate Assessment Committee. And it's acquisition, 107 is acquisition North Road. Conveyance, North Road, 108. Acquisition Cherry Street. Conveyance, Cherry Street, 109 and 110. Acquisition North Carolina Avenue, 11. Conveyance, North Carolina Avenue, Article 112. And real estate conveyance for Morgan Square. We have not ruled on any of those. Article 114, bylaw of bicycles. This is the bicycle accident database. We have ruled on this. Motion not to adopt. Article 115, appropriation insurance reimbursement account.
So, from the sewer force main failure in 2018, we recouped about $898,000 from our insurance company relative to the claim that was filed, that we filed for the damage to our property and infrastructure. Mass General Law requires that any insurance proceeds received for any single incident over $150,000 require a vote of town meeting to authorize the appropriation. So we have a ban that is coming due in May tied to that receipt that once town meeting authorized, we'll use that to pay it down and clear it. So.
Was that in line with your expectations, or were we?
Quite frankly, we didn't expect, we kind of thought we were going to get denied, but the way the coverage was written, we were fortunate that the failure occurred within a certain number of feet of the actual structure that's insured, so.
Article 116, appropriation stabilization funds.
So this article would appropriate money into the town stabilization fund. I think that the recommendation was that we would make an appropriation into both the general stabilization fund, correct me if I'm wrong, Libby, about $500,000, and then I think we're also going to ask for $750,000 to go into the capital stabilization fund.
Okay. Article 117, appropriation free cash.
This article would be for any appropriation from free cash that wasn't otherwise handled through one of the other articles. Typically, it's been passed over at town meeting because we've handled transfers to the enterprise funds or whatever through the other articles associated with those.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, what have we put away in the two stabilization funds? What are their balances?
Capital stabilization has 1,250,000 in it, and the general stabilization has about 5.3, just over 5.3 million in it.
We've never invaded them, we've never used them.
We have never used them. Not to this point. And, or at least, I should say, excuse me, during my time here, we've never gone to them.
Thank you. Okay, any public comments on all of this? I will close the public comments portion and now open it up to go back and start ruling on some of these. How does that sound, everybody? Yay, thanks. Okay. So, I think the first one we can sensibly, well, we can do number 1, correct? Any discussion on number 1?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So adopt, and it's 2, 3. Okay. Moving along to Article 7, I think is the next one that we can do.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any further discussion, which I always forget to ask? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 7. Trying to make better notes. Sorry, everybody. Okay, let's see. Moving right along. We already did this one. Article 30, we're going to have the land bank come in and speak to us first.
Are you in touch with them or do you want me to?
I am happy for, do they report to you? No.
No, their own elected board.
I will, I can do it then, and I will tell them the days that they can come, and how's that? One less admin thing for you, Libby, thank you, because I think you have a few things on your plate. Okay, sorry, I'm flipping through. Okay. Are we ruling on the swimming pool? Are we able to rule on the swimming pool one, or are we still waiting for information, Chris? Because I think it was you that wanted a little bit more time to think about the swimming pools.
Yeah, I don't want to hold it up, but are we clear that we're clear there's a planning board motion that we were either supporting or not supporting?
There is a planning board motion finally, yes.
Oh, okay. I was just confused, and maybe someone else on this board can answer me. I wanted more time because I wasn't asking the planning director why this is something the planning board wants to do, and I sort of got, the pools are big, there are people on both sides of the pool issue. I'm like, okay, so why do they want to do this? I just couldn't get satisfied with the answer, and I guess I still don't, but
We can wait. I'm recused from this, but I'll speak as a member of the public.
Perfect. Oh, good, we have more public.
Yeah.
So, this has been explained to me as a compromise between maybe some members of the planning board and the planning department. So there was, last year, you remember there was discussion about banning pools in more zones, and this is meant to be a compromise with that. So we're not banning them altogether, but if you have the smallest lot in a particular zone, in these 5,000 square foot zones, you're not eligible for a pool. You've got to have a substantially oversized lot in order to be able to get one. So the idea being that now you have enough land and they've increased the setbacks, so your pool is set far enough away from your neighbor's property that you're less likely to be a nuisance to your neighbors. So it's a nod to the people who don't like pools at all, but also maintains the right to have a pool for most people.
What's the average size of a lot in town?
I would guess that it's probably slightly under 5,000 square feet because there's so many pre-existing non-conforming lots, but the minimum lot size in what most people think of as downtown, the residential historic district, is 5,000 square feet. And then in the very core, you have commercial downtown, which has a smaller minimum lot size, but not probably relevant.
And similarly in Sconset and Nantucket, right? Those core parts of those areas are.
Yeah, Nantucket's probably bigger, but Sconset again, probably smaller. You know, they stack those fish shacks pretty close together.
At least in Codfish Park and Broadway.
Yeah.
And also the.
Yeah, all the
off
old
Maury-
historic
off
stuff.
Maury- Yeah.
All those houses on Wynn with pools, what size are those lots approximately?
I
Yes, 5,000.
no, I think they're probably
bigger?
closer to like 7,000. You know, they would be right on the border of this.
So they probably wouldn't qualify under the.
We have a member of the public that would like to speak to this.
No, I'm not really trying to speak, but that is, I think the Wynn Street is exactly what they looked at to come up with this number. And I think they're still, I mean, I just gather that they're trying to figure out where the push is, but this was driven by one member of the planning board, and he, last year and then this year, he wanted to address it again, so I think that was.
How many people do we think this affects?
Well, from what I'm hearing, it would affect everybody down, a lot of people live in downtown.
So downtown isn't included here because you already
They already
can't have
can't
pools
Oh,
in
because it's
ROH.
historic.
Right.
Okay.
So R1
But you can have spas.
is affected. Those properties on Wynn Street. Everybody know the ones we're talking about?
Yep, off
Yeah.
Nantucket Road, right?
Yeah.
Right past the.
Yeah, and there's like 5 homes
church
right in a
thing.
row that have
Yep.
a house, a pool, and a little cottage behind it. Those would all be allowed to have pools. Those are 8,300 square feet each, so those are large enough that a pool would be permissible. So you wouldn't be banning that.
I think they all have pools now, so.
And they already do, but I'm saying, so you can get a concept of what the scale is, like that lot would be allowed to have a pool in the future. But any smaller than that, you wouldn't.
And that pool now would have to be 10 feet from the boundaries, basically,
Right.
the setback, unlike 5 feet, which is what it was before, if I understand correctly. Okay? Did Chris, did that answer your questions?
I guess, I mean, the whole thing
Or
just
do you
seems
wanna
so.
wait until
No, I
planning
don't-
comes back to us?
No, there's nothing that's gonna waiting is gonna, and I guess, and part of me says, you know, planning's unanimous, I'm not gonna figure this out. Fine, although then I hear, you know, Matt Fee on my shoulder say, the finance committee should be looking into everything and be understanding everything. But the whole thing personally just feels so arbitrary. I mean, I don't like pools, but I don't mind other people having pools. It just feels weird to me. I can't get my hands around what's going on. Usually, planning comes in and they're very kind about sort of explaining an underlying planning philosophy or notion or some agreed upon plan that these things fit. And this one to me seems an outlier on that. It just seems like I don't want my neighbor to have something. And I don't know.
Well, I mean, if what Jill says is true, I mean, Fritz McClure promoted the article last year, and he's on the planning board, and if it's still a hot issue for him, perhaps he, I mean, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but
And it was defeated last year at town meeting, correct?
I believe so.
He ended up pulling it at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember, but I remember it didn't, I remember it didn't pass, but I didn't remember, okay. So do we have an appetite for a motion?
Hey, Jill, do you have an opinion on this as a member of the public?
I think, again, you know, I had to recuse myself just from my husband's business, which I don't own and I'm not part of that. But I learn about the business through him, and I try to listen to him. We don't always see eye to eye, as you can imagine now that you all know me. But and he has, honestly, he has no problem with this article, none. The reason I have a problem with it is because I feel like, how can we tell people what they can and can't build on their property and say the haves and the have-nots? And I think that's what you're creating here, and I don't like that when we do that. It does happen, but in general, when I really look out to tell somebody what they can and can't do, we have already some very tough restrictions here. And I just feel it's just like, now we're going to tell them you got to buy this leaf blower or that. I mean, what are we doing here? You know, they're supposed to come here, and most people, I think, are coming here, especially people with pools, to relax and enjoy the island and hopefully, you know, step out of themselves for a while. So no, I don't want to tell people what they can and can't do with their property, at least as a general rule of thumb. And this is, again, it's pitting lots against each other. Like, oh, well, they can't, you know, not everybody can afford an 8,000 square foot lot here. They can't.
Is the concern, you think, that it makes the properties more rentable and that it's more of a kind of property that's more in the short-term rental market and not something?
I think the concern last year, or whenever it came up, and I just remember it was pools are noisier than grass, because people are jumping in them and shouting, I think is I know it sounds.
That was definitely Stephen Cohen's point, and I thought his speech was pretty good about that.
So that's my recollection.
But I'm not sure that's Fritz's point.
It feels to me that's like a reason somebody's, in my opinion, it sounds to me like a reason someone's kind of ginned up to get at some other reason.
Okay, so do we have an appetite for any other questions or comments?
I look at this as protection for the neighbor rather than allowing somebody to put a pool in or not put a pool in. I mean, if you have a house and you don't have a pool, and you've got 3 neighbors on these tiny lots or small lots that have pools, it's noisy in the summertime. I mean, and you might have had your house before those other houses were built.
Yeah, but you also had your house at a time when you knew pools could go in.
I'm not disagreeing, but I look at it as a protection for the person who doesn't have a pool, perhaps, rather than a restriction on putting pools in.
But then do we outlaw stereos next? And I mean, where do you stop with sort of outlawing the things that can become nuisances to neighbors?
Just leaf blowers.
We're not even gonna help the lady with the lights, and now we're not.
Well, we do have noise laws about stereos, you know?
After 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
And isn't there a grace period where people are allowed to apply for the permit? I remember last year that there was a flood of applications for pools because people were worried that this was gonna pass.
There's a grace period, I think, till September
This year, September
20th or
30th,
something.
2020.
Yeah.
September 30th.
That's why I asked how many people does this really affect? Is it 100 people? Is it 50 people?
I seem to remember, I think it's a lot. I mean, I think there are.
Yeah, I don't think,
I think it's
I had
50.
the
I don't know, but.
We didn't get an answer to the number of people that affected. No.
Stephen, you're the real. I always look to you, the real estate. If we didn't, if this article fails, and pools can be built any place that they're not specifically outlawed, like the ROH district, are there still, sort of hurdles that, let's say you had a lot like those Wynn Street lots, or a lot close into town that was 6,000 square feet, and you had wanted to put a 10 by 10 plunge pool or whatever? Are there other ways that your neighbors can slow you down or, stop it? Or is it kind of a by right?
So it's interesting you bring up that 10 by 10 plunge pool.
I bet it is.
Those are still being installed.
They're not even defined now.
There's like a certain volume calculation that you have to meet before you're even considered a pool. So that thing can probably still be installed on a 7,495 square foot lot.
It's a spa, not a pool.
Yeah, a spa with cool water in it.
But you heard Andrew say that night, I think you'd already left, Stephen. I think he said that night they're going to change the gallons. But they want to look at that at some point.
I guess, is it really so bad? I mean, that I have my grandkids run, I don't know. I live in town, I'm on India Street, and I put a tiny pool in my backyard, and my grandkids jump in and out of it on August afternoon. I mean, I got to I just don't find that objectionable. I mean, my neighbor has a pool, their nieces and nephews are in there all summer long, and you just tune it out. It's just,
how many weeks is a pool even used in Nantucket?
I think this is a solution in search, well, obviously there are people who think it's a problem, but personally I think it's a solution in search of a problem.
I agree.
Okay, so appetite for a motion.
Make a motion not to support the planning board's motion.
Second.
To not support the planning board's motion.
Yeah, if that's the right way to word. You know what I mean, right?
That's all right.
Okay, so we need further discussion on the motion because I think it's the opposite way. I believe that we would say that this is, so you're saying this is not okay?
Yes.
That the new restrictions of 10 feet back instead of 5 feet back and only on.
None of this stuff's okay.
None of this stuff is okay.
A freedom fighter.
I don't know too many other times we've gone voted against what the planning board has recommended either.
Right, there was
Yeah,
once
but that's
before.
not a good reason to do
No,
or
I
not
know,
to
but
do.
I think it's a serious reason.
Well, if I may, I'll say again what I said before, which is that typically the planning board comes forth or the director comes forth and sort of explains why something either is or is not in keeping with, an underlying plan that's been developed or even, sort of a theory of planning. In this case, I haven't heard anything besides like there's just some people that don't like pools.
No.
Or the kind of people that have pools
So the
or something.
planning board, if I'm interpreting this correctly, the planning board is changing what's allowed today and making it a bit more restrictive in terms of being able to have a pool. Because you have to have a minimum lot area of 7,500 square feet, and your side and rear setbacks are 10 feet. So,
Can I ask Chris?
I don't know if I got a second, by the way, so I don't know. if
We did.
I
We
seconded
got-
Peter
Peter
seconded
got a
it. Yep, so
second.
we're still having discussions.
So I would like to hold this over for a day so that I can watch the discussion from the planning board meeting and see if there was any salient points.
Sure,
Okay.
if any,
Okay.
I'm fully on board with anybody bringing forward a reason that resonates as to why this should happen. I just haven't heard any from my perspective.
Okay,
So what do? Withdraw my motion?
yes, I
Do we just table the vote until?
Let's table it, we can continue it to the next meeting, we can continue discussion and have a vote.
Yeah,
Agreed.
okay, let's just table it till the next
Sure.
one. We can actually go back to number 28. I realized in hindsight, I skipped over that one because that's just a wording one. So it's the amend purpose of special stabilization fund for substance abuse prevention efforts, and the wording that's been added is to implement substance abuse, and the wording added is and/or mental health, and/or mental health, and/or mental health. So the article stays fundamentally the same, but now it includes mental health as well as substance abuse.
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion to adopt. Thank you. 2, 3, 20. Okay, let's see if we can get a couple more done before we. Sorry, folks,
You're a slave driver,
pardon?
You're a slave driver.
You're dangerous. I've got you till 6 o'clock, is how I look at
Early
it.
at the meeting yet this season.
I look at it as you're just excited to be here till 6 o'clock, so until I see what the next one is and then realize we can't get it done in 2 minutes, so off we go. Yeah,
First combined meeting, we didn't post it, it wasn't open, a public meeting.
we're probably not going to get 58 done in 4 minutes. I would offer.
We're going to 58.
58 is the commercial mid-island height restriction from 40 feet to 30 feet. Yeah, let's not do that one, I can just see that's not gonna get us.
Pool under roof.
Well, we're still waiting. You spoke to Andrew, but you got to
Can
bring
be
something
done.
to the HDC.
I'm for that.
Yeah, I'll still
Especially
prepare
Mid-Island.
something. I just don't know if I
Where's the ridge line?
support my own reasons for debating it anymore.
Okay.
But I'm still gonna bring forward what I told you I'd bring forward.
Here's what we're gonna do. Article 70, it's and then we're going to call it a day.
Skipping around.
7-0.
I know, we're kind of jumping around.
I can't keep up.
Motion not to adopt?
Yeah, I don't think we'll have a problem.
Just kidding.
Don't
just
second
kidding.
that.
He's
Can we
closest
vote
to the
Joe
door.
off the
Should we
island?
select person?
Can't stand it anymore.
Okay.
Can I please-
I'll be serious tonight. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Well, at least now we can call it SB instead of BS.
Yeah. So, on that note, thank you very much. And do I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
We did a lot.
Libby.
Well done, Denise.
Thank you, Libby, Brian, Ally, Dawn.